a Golden Globe actress and she's very successful in her career, but she is on the board of directors for the American Institute of Stuttering. And when I think of Emily Blunt and I think of that teacher that encouraged her or pushed her, that was a part of the school culture. And if that teacher didn't go out of their way to speak to her or encourage her, we don't know where she would be. But school culture is definitely important. And as we talk further about it, you guys have been teaching 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You've definitely seen a difference in school cultures, from the years of teaching. What are some of the things that you saw early on as far as coming in teaching introductory, Don? You've been teaching for several years.
Well, and most of my teaching experience has been here. So I can reflect back 15, 16, 17 years here. And it seemed like what students came in the door with is different. When they came in the door, you had, I think, a lot more students 15 years ago who I think had perhaps a little bit better overall parent support, value of education, love of learning, and they walked in the door that we didn't have to construct that, we didn't have to build that, we didn't have to make that happen. It was part of the culture because they walked in the door with it. I don't see as much of that now. And so what I struggle with is, can we build that, or how much because you can be the most positive teacher in the world and encouraging, but if they walk in the door with a lot of baggage of, but I'm not smart, I'm not good at school, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at whatever, then we're having to counteract a lot more of things we're inheriting from their life outside of school. That's what I see.
Okay. So you're saying that there's more family involvement, parental involvement years ago, and now,
yes.
Of course, blended families, divided families.
Complicated.
There's no doubt. So you're saying we probably need to debrief and maybe pour more spiritual truth in there to some point and try to meet them where they're at, and then try to hit the other areas.
Even reaching beyond the student, trying to reach the homes.
Reach the homes, absolutely. The parents and the homes that are here, for sure. Why does it, when we think of student culture or we think of school culture, why does it matter? Why would you say it matters?
Because I think it's because of what they carry with them the rest of their lives. I mean, I'm not saying a person can't change, obviously they can, but a lot of times I think you look at the ones that are coming here that you constantly are in the offices. Where are they 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And I'm sure there's some that do fine and do great, but it sets that pattern to kind of not necessarily follow the right track,
Okay.
So
Absolutely, there's patterns that are set, for sure.
I think it gives the student the mindset of whether or not they're going to succeed. If the culture is great and you've come from a setting as to which you feel like you need to be able to blend in with a culture that's great, you feel like you have an opportunity to get to know people, to be a part of that culture and help it succeed.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, if it's not a great culture and you've been doing something and you feel happy right now, do you think you really want to come in and be a part of that culture?
Right.
Are you going to find somebody that's bringing that culture down or helping bring you down from where you were at? And it works on the student once they get there.
Yeah.
It works on them.
I think if they enjoy being here, if they feel like they fit in, they're ready to learn. I think a lot of times you get a student come in the room and because, they feel like they don't fit, or people don't like them, or they don't value themselves at all, they don't see themselves the way Christ sees them, the way God sees them, and they come in like that, that's all gonna be dealt with before they're even open to learn. I don't care what the subject is, I don't care if it's Bible class or math or science or whatever it is, they're not ready to learn.
Exactly.
And so if that culture is right, now, okay, all that's out of the way, now, okay, what can I learn to go to the next level and the next step? And so, I think a positive culture is critically important if any real learning takes place.
Absolutely. So,
if you don't mind, just there's a statement that says, misery loves company. But the fact is, if that culture is great, that person is ready to learn, they're engaged. Someone else that may be feeling the same thing may be engaged just as well by seeing that person engaged. And knowing those people that come in their first year students or whatever, and they see that, they tend to gravitate towards that and want to be a part of that.
I think you guys hit it right on the head. You've got students that come in from maybe from other schools or transfer in from different states. And if they had a great experience in another high school somewhere else, and it was wonderful, and if they come here and the culture is different and it's not encouraging, will they want to learn? Will they come to a classroom ready to learn? Will they think about, "Well, I wish I was back at this school?" And to some extent, we have students that do that. But just the opposite can take place as well. If we have a culture that's at our school that's welcoming, that's encouraging, that's inviting, I think that's the foundational level of school culture, accepting people and encouraging people, and then in efforts they can learn. So we're going to start with the foundational things, and there's 3 things that we're going to focus on this initiative. The first thing is this: it's important teachers at the beginning of each day. I want to see teachers standing at their door, and I want to see teachers greeting students by their first name and having eye contact with them. I think that's key, and you guys do a great job of this, because I see it in the practice gym and by the gymnasium, and Don's at the crosswalk. Now, Pierce, I don't get to see you too much, but I'm sure you do a good job as well. But that's the first initiative that we're going to have, guys, is I want to create a culture, or have a culture where teachers are literally at the door, and as they go back to the door, and the door's open, and as students are starting to walk in towards the door, I want to see the teacher greet them by name, first name, shake their hand, or pat them on the back, but I want to see eye contact. And I think a lot of times we minimize eye contact. We've got a culture today of young people, even adults. They're so busy looking down at their iPads, at their iPhones, and they're not engaged. They're not engaged. Well, they're engaged in something, but they're not engaged where you want them to be. And as I think of that, and I see high school students, and my wife sees it at the college level, students that when she asks questions or she tries to interact, it's like they might have 1 or 2 word answers, and that's it. There's a shutdown. There's not much going on there. And I think it's important for teachers, for us as teachers and staff, to go ahead and make sure when the students are coming through that we look at them in the eye, and that we say their name and give some type of physical contact. Maybe it's a pat on the back, maybe it's a fist bump, just to let them know we're there. And when they don't look at you in the eye, I know this might be kind of awkward, but we're going to ask the students to look at us in the eye. When they're looking down, you might say, you're walking through, they're walking through, and as they're walking through, you might say, "Hey, good morning, John," and John's like, "Good morning," like that. We're gonna have to stop these students and wait a second. "Hey, John, I'm right here." And I've been guilty with my son, because I'm big about that with eye contact, and we go out to restaurants to eat, our family does, and all of a sudden, the waitress is asking for the order, and he's mumbling and he won't look up, and I'm like, "Eyes, look up," and it's embarrassing, but he'll look up, and he'll look at her in the eye and tell her what he wants, and I'm like, good. I want to make sure that we have that as a school, so we're gonna practice that in a few minutes. That's the first thing. But the second thing is this: we need to have uniform class rules as teachers. We need to have uniform class rules as teachers, and I'm not saying the teacher can't have their own environment. I'm not saying at all, but I really believe our school across the board has to have these uniform rules. What are some of the rules in your classes that you have? What are some of the rules that you have typically in your classes?
Mine is that when someone's talking, everybody else is quiet.
Absolutely. I've got that one too. I'll share that in a second. Good.
I was thinking, maybe remind me of discussion rules, because initially when you come to the classroom, it's, raise your hand or something, wait to be called on to, because we're doing a lot of things in the class, but often we get into a lesson or a discussion, whatever. Discussion rules are, anybody can talk, as long as they stay on this subject.
Right.
Number 2, talking, nobody else is talking, and once I talk, everybody stops, because I'm giving instructions and things like that. But a lot of that is mutual respect.
Right.
So.
Good. So we're along the same lines.
From that perch of when I'm talking, nobody else is talking, because it's hard for me to talk to everybody else. Somebody else is trying to talk, and you got 2 or 3 people talking at the same time. We get nothing accomplished.
It's all out chaos usually takes place. What about you guys? Any particular class rules that you have?
Don't touch the timpani unless I say so.
Don't touch the timpani unless I say so. Okay. Good.
And for me, I think it's be respectful of the
Mhm.
students around you, it's a different setting than from a classroom, but, I mean, that's definitely a challenge for sure, but it's to be respectful of the other students around you, so.
Absolutely. Years ago, when I started teaching, I came up with these 4 class rules. You know, they said, don't have 20 rules or 10 rules, just keep it simple. And I had 4 class rules, and I still hold, they're kind of, I don't say corny, but these 4 class rules, I still hold to them today. Number 1 is must be in your seat when the bell rings. Bell rings, you gotta be in your seat. That's number 1. Number 2, no talking in class unless called upon. Unless your hand's up, that's when you can talk. Number 3 is, we don't put others down. We don't make fun of people. We don't mock them, whatever. We just don't do it. I always say, why would your parents pay thousands of dollars for you to come to a Christian school or private school to get made fun of when you can go to public school and it can be for free? So I say, don't put others down. But number 4 is absolutely no disrespect. No talking back, and I give the young ladies a hard time because sometimes, I'll say something, they'll roll their eyes back like that. I'm like, nope, we're not rolling the eyes, we're not mumbling under the breath, it's just those 4 things. And it's worked for the most part pretty well. Students kind of fall in line with those rules. But I think as a school, we have to have uniform class rules, and it sounds like definitely in your classrooms, I know you guys have different, being in PE and being in music, it's different. I think we have to have those in classrooms for sure, those classroom rules. So that's the second thing, second issue we're going to go through. And number 3 is this. When other students help out, I want his or her peers, I want them to be praised in the classroom. I want an audible praise. When you see another student helping out another student, whether picking up the books or, I think we as teachers, we minimize that. We might think to ourselves, that's a great thing that they did, and we might give out knight's gold, so to speak, sometimes for different things. But I don't think we praise the students enough when they're doing the right thing, and that's a positive initiative. That's a positive twist in the school culture there. I want to do this. I want to role play real quick, guys. Let's say we're on day 3 of school, or day 5 of school, and students, the right way to have eye contact when they come through the door, okay? And then we're going to do the wrong way, and I want to see you guys role play. So, E.T., I'm going to have you and Pierce. I'll have you at the door, E.T., and then Pierce, I'll have you at the door. And E.T., I'll have you coming through, and we're going to do the right way. So you're going to know him, you're going to greet him, you're going to shake his hand, fist bump, whatever it might be. You're going to have eye contact and go through this. So we'll do that one first, and then we'll have you guys do the redirect. The second one where it's like, oh, you didn't even eye contact. What's going on?
So he comes in.
Yeah, he's just coming in like day number 2, number 3.
Good morning, young man. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Martin, sir. How are you today?
Doing great, doing great. Come on in.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good job. Good job. Now we're going to do you're still good. We're going to do the way that it should be done, and we're going to do a redirect. So Don, if you be at the door, and Mark, you're coming through. Mark, you're not going to make eye contact with them, and you're kind of going to walk by Mr. Russell and just keep walking.
Oh, mom.
I want to see him slam against the door. Just look at me.
Good morning, sir. How you doing this morning? Whoa. How are we doing, sir? You need to make eye contact with me. What's going on? What's going on? You gonna talk to me? When you talk, step outside, come here. Okay. Let's have talk.
Good. Good job, guys. Appreciate that.
Somebody yelling at the hallway today.
Well, I think those 3 initiatives are so key in our school. I think the first one, like we said, is we're going to have teachers and staff at their hallways, their classroom doors. They're going to greet the students. They're going to look the student in the eye. They're going to maybe not shake every student's hand, but pat them on the back. Maybe say something affirming to the student. Hey, how you doing this morning? How are things going? That's the first thing. I think the second thing is we need to have uniform class rules once again across the board. And the third thing would be, it's important and it's key to encourage students when you see them doing something right. Say a word of encouragement to them and make sure our entire school, it's not just the teachers, but other students do the same thing. I'm not gonna say this person's name.